Welcome to Creep It, where the internet's darkest stories come to life. Get comfy, but don't get too relaxed. These tales might just keep you up tonight. If you enjoy the chills, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more creepy content. Now, let's dive in. How's your dad? I saw him yesterday. Back when I was 12, I went to a private school, which meant I had a pretty long walk to my apartment. The school was a bit far from the city center in Zagreb, Croatia, but luckily there were plenty of public transport options to get home. My usual routine was simple: catch a bus from the station in front of my school, ride it to the main street, then hop on a tram to a public park and walk the rest of the way home. Our school had this double timetable system. One week we'd have classes in the morning, and the next week we'd go in the afternoon. This happened during one of my afternoon weeks. That day, I left school with a few classmates since we all took the same bus to the main street. The rest of the class usually got picked up by their parents. When we got on the bus, I spotted a few empty seats and sat down in front of a balding, middle-aged man. He was wearing slightly dirty clothes, and that's where I made my mistake. The moment I sat down, he started staring at me. Not just looking, staring. His eyes had this cold, unsettling look. I felt uncomfortable right away, so I pulled a book out of my bag and started reading. I would have used my phone, but it was dead. I had forgotten to charge it before leaving home that day. But the guy didn't stop staring, not once during the entire bus ride. I tried to focus on my book, but his gaze made it impossible. Still, I refused to put the book down. I didn't want to show I was scared. For some reason, I thought if I acted normal, it might make him stop, or maybe I just didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing my fear. I thought about telling my classmates, but we were all spread out on the bus, and I was too scared to move. I don't know why, but I felt frozen. Maybe I was hoping it was all in my head, that he was just staring for some dumb reason. When we finally reached our stop, my classmates and I got off. Some of us headed to the tram station, while others walked straight home. But then I noticed something. The guy who had been staring at me got off too. He started following us, keeping a fair distance. I quietly told one of my friends about it, but urged him not to look back. I figured ignoring the guy might be the best option. When we got to the tram station, people started splitting up, boarding different trams based on their routes. I needed tram number 2, and so did my friend. We waited for it to arrive, and I could still see the guy somewhere to our right, but we kept pretending not to notice him. When our tram pulled up, my friend and I got on, but so did the creepy guy. By the time we got close to my stop, I quietly asked my friend if he should get off with me, just in case. But before we could decide, the guy suddenly got off first and started walking toward the park, opposite the direction I needed to go. I thought maybe he had overheard us talking. The tram was almost empty since it was around 9 p.m., but I didn't consider that at the time. I just assumed it was all a big misunderstanding. When I finally stepped off the tram and it sped away, I started walking home. It wasn't far, just about a 5-minute walk. But then I noticed someone behind me. I didn't even need to look. I knew it was him. My heart started racing as I picked up my pace and headed straight for my apartment. As I turned the corner into the alley leading to my apartment, I realized the guy was getting closer. My heart was pounding as I reached the building and quickly buzzed my mom on the intercom. I prayed she'd hurry. But before she could open the door, the guy caught up with me. The stench coming off him hit me first, and then he started talking. "Hey, how've you been, buddy? I saw your dad yesterday, and he told me all about how you're getting on at that new school of yours." The moment he said that, I knew he was lying. My dad had been away for months on a work trip and hadn't come home even once during that time. I froze. I didn't know what to do, so I just stood there, staring at him. Then the intercom buzzed, unlocking the door. Without hesitating, I bolted inside. I sprinted toward the stairs, but he followed, running right behind me. I've never felt such a surge of adrenaline in my life. My backpack, heavy with books, slowed me down, but I pushed through. Up one flight, then another, until I finally reached the 3rd floor, where my mom was waiting by the door. I didn't stop. Without saying a word, I shoved her out of the way, rushed inside, and slammed the door shut. My hands were shaking as I locked it. Thankfully, the guy had enough sense not to keep chasing me. I told my mom everything. She immediately called the police, and they arrived a short while later. They asked me questions. What the guy looked like, what exactly had happened. In the end, they checked the building's security cameras, but it was too dark outside, and since I hadn't turned on the indoor lights as I came in, they couldn't get a clear view of his face. For 2 weeks, I was too scared to go home alone, so my mom picked me up every time until 2 weeks later, when, on the news, it was said how a man was arrested for attempted kidnapping and raping of children, and the face they showed was the exact one I saw that night. So I finally breathed a sigh of relief, knowing I was safe for now. But that didn't excuse the fact that I was careless with not charging my phone, and there were still many bad people out there. Everyone, please stay safe out there. To the person who I met, if you ever get released for some ungodly reason, I hope I never see your face again. He will be out soon. A few years ago, I was working at a pizza chain in my hometown as a driver. I was 27, but made darn good money delivering. I had worked at a few other places, both local and chain, in the years before, and still work as a dasher on occasion, even after this happened. Now I choose to deliver in much safer areas for this reason. I got luckier than I could ever imagine. One night I was working and had a double, 2 deliveries to take. Both were cash orders. I had $12 left in my bank, what drivers are given to use as change for cash orders, so you don't have a ton of cash on you at all times. The first order went smoothly. The guy gave me $50 for a $35 order, so I was excited about the nice tip. I drove to the second delivery. It was at an apartment complex with multiple buildings. I had delivered there before. The sun was about to set, but it was still very light out. The chain I worked at had us drive company cars with the logo on it, all white sedans. This is important. I grabbed the order and go to the door to the apartment building. A young guy comes out, and a much bigger, older guy was outside smoking a cigarette. The big guy went inside as the smaller guy came out. He looked around nervously and asked how much he owed me. The way he was looking around just made me very nervous. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. I told him the amount, and he said that wasn't what he was told on the phone. Something was very wrong. I felt someone else walk out behind me from the door, as the first young guy looked around down the parking lot, craning his neck as if he was looking for someone. I told him the amount again and broke down the order for him, trying to keep calm. Then the first guy held a gun to my right temple. I also felt a poke on my spine. 2 gunmen. I couldn't speak. Words wouldn't form no matter how hard I tried. Give me your money and keys. Now. The first guy growled, and I fumbled immediately for the keys. I gave him my bank, but hadn't realized the 50 was mixed in. I gave him the keys, trying my best to remain calm. Another guy came up from my left. He had poofy hair and was around the same age as the first kid. The one behind me I hadn't seen yet. The big hair kid grabbed the pizza bag and ran off and hid. The first kid searched the company car. Luckily, I had left my wallet in my personal car. I saw him grab my cell phone. That's when the panic began to set in. I had pictures on that phone that I hadn't backed up of my then 5-year-old son, who absolutely is my world. Please, please don't take that. I have pictures of my son who died on there. It's all I have of him, please. I lied. My son is very much alive. The kid behind me spoke softly. Trust me, just listen to him. You'll get it back undamaged. I don't want to be here either. I could tell he'd been crying by how his voice sounded. A car began pulling in, and the 3 boys took off to the other end of the complex in a full sprint. Before the one behind me ran, he dropped the gun in front of me. Standard issue 9mm silver and black, safety off, looked completely real to me. He picked it back up and ran with the others. The car that pulled in saw me. It was a woman and her kid. Panic set in, as I realized they could easily come back and do way worse to me as the sky started to get dark. I collapsed. They had taken my company car keys, $72, the pizza, and my phone. The woman ran up to me and asked if I was all right. She took me into her apartment in the next building over and locked the door. I was shaking so hard I couldn't even hold her phone to talk to 911 as she set down her kid. Her boyfriend, I assume, helped me call. I spoke to the operator and told her everything. I'm colorblind, and these guys were obviously wearing all black and white clothes, thank God. I had a full description of 2 of them. The poor woman who helped me was going to be late for work, but she still stayed until I was off the phone and cops had shown up. Man, she was harsh and blunt with the operator, but I will never forget this woman's utter kindness to me and her boyfriend's. Cops showed up and contacted my store, and my manager brought out the spare keys for me to drive the car back to the store. After dealing with the cops, I drove back and was greeted by crying and beyond worried coworkers. All of them were terrified that I was hurt. It meant a lot to me how much they cared, but I told them I was fine. I filed the proper paperwork, and the 72 was written off as a loss to the store. Thank God, because I had worked other stores that make you pay back the money out of pocket if you get robbed to prevent drivers from stealing. I was told by the owner to take the rest of the night off and take care of myself. He gave me a hug. He was to this day one of the best bosses I ever had. What I didn't know was I was in for a very long night. I called my best friend before I left the store from the store phone and asked where he was. We usually meet up for drinks after work. He was around the corner at a bar, so I met up with him. His dad was a District 4 cop in my city at the time, the same district that this happened in. He told me his dad had given him a heads up, and he had 2 shots waiting for me to calm my nerves. After the 2 shots, we began playing pool when his dad called his phone and asked if I was with him yet. He said yeah and handed me the phone. His dad asked if I could come to the station. I was honest and told him I'd had 2 shots, so he sent out a squad car to get me since it wasn't that far away. We get to the station. They had suspects in custody. I was needed to ID them. 3 boys and a driver. They had been caught less than 20 minutes after the robbery, speeding. The bolo had already gone out, and they matched the description. They had used the money to buy weed and gas and had taken off. They had at least 15 stolen cell phones on them. The order had been placed on a stolen phone. My phone was in the mix, in the box. The police told me to grab my phone only, and I did. They asked me to unlock it. It had fingerprint verification, so that was easy. 9 of the 10 tries to unlock it had already been used before my phone would have completely reset. It unlocked. I told the police every detail yet again, although my parental instincts kicked in. I told them the guy behind me, quite obviously, was bullied into this, and to show mercy. He was the one with the white shirt. The police went wide-eyed and told me he was the one talking. The other 3 denied involvement. That's when I found out about the 4th guy, the driver. We found out later he was completely unaware of the robbery and was just picking up his friends. He was never charged. The boy who was behind me and the one who grabbed the pizza were 15 and 16 and got 6 months of house arrest. The only reason the one behind me got off easy despite having the gun to my back was because I asked them to go easy on him, that he was a good kid who didn't want to be there, and he was the only one confessing. Makes sense, since he had even said the other guy wouldn't have the phone for long. He was planning on going to the cops had they not been caught. But the other guy, the first kid who put the gun to my temple, it was his 18th birthday. He got the book thrown at him. In the courtroom, he made fun of me and was laughing at me. Seeing him made me panic. The judge scolded him for his behavior, and he just grinned and glared at me with a Joker-like grin. All I could see was pure evil. This kid will commit more crimes. I have no doubt he will eventually end someone's life. You can see how cold he is just by looking in his eyes. He's evil incarnate. I grew up in a town full of murders and abusers. I had never seen this kind of evil in my life, and I never want to see it again. I asked to have my name stricken from the records and asked to remain anonymous in case he ever got out. I'm so glad I did. Because today I got a letter from the state. He's being released in February. The court only had my old address, my parents' house, and my mom didn't think the letter was important. I missed the deadline to protest his release for probation. The plea deal was 8 years. It's only been 4. He's getting out early due to overcrowding, not good behavior, overcrowding, this coming February. And I'm ready if he finds me. My wife, my parents, everyone I know knows his face and name. If he tries anything, We are all ready. But for his sake, let's not meet. To the woman and her family who helped me, I was a woman then. I'm trans. If you see this, please know my undying gratitude for you all. It was inconvenient for you, and yet you still were late to work to help me, and I cannot thank you enough. I bought Christmas presents for your daughter, but when I went to the landlord there to find you, you had moved. I didn't want to be a creep and stalk your new place, but I'm glad you got out of that bad neighborhood, and I hope your beautiful baby girl is doing well too. I would gladly meet you again to give you the proper thanks you deserve. From the Domino's driver in Southwest Ohio. Edit. He's already got a warrant out for new crimes. I don't know the details, but I know there was another victim based on the type of crimes committed. 3 of them. He got let out February 2nd. The warrants are from February 22nd. I've been watching his Facebook since everything was public, just making sure he was staying away from my family. I hadn't checked it since mid-February, so I just checked it. I noticed he stopped posting. Since he was posting everything, including asking for smoke, and when he was going to be on Facebook, that was unusual. So I checked the records page. More violent crimes have been committed, and he's more than likely on the run. From his Facebook, it looked like he was turning around. Guess not. I feel horrible. I know I tried my hardest to make sure he stayed in. Victim services did not care to listen, basically. Now he's hurt someone else. I feel horrible for the new victim. And I know it's not, but I can't help but feel like I'm partially guilty for this. I'll keep updating as this develops. As of right now, he's on the run. Another edit, March 22nd, 2023. He is back in prison as of March 8th for 5 charges. If victim services has ever failed, it's now. I can't help but feel guilty and horrible, like I could have done more. He is being charged with violent crimes against individuals, possession of a weapon under disability F4, so probation violation, I guess, and homicide. Someone died by his hand. After I fought as much as I could to try to keep him locked up, I know this isn't my fault, yet I can't stop the guilt. Hopefully this won't happen to anyone else by his hand. As of this point, it'll be years before we get a verdict, more than likely, so this may be the final update. Thank you all so much for your support. Stay safe out there, friends. It's a crazy world. And that's the end of today's story. It's hard to imagine how quickly life can change in a single moment, whether it's a brush with danger or a simple act of kindness. Remember, staying aware and being kind can make all the difference. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts below. What would you have done in a situation like this? And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new story. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.